12 cars, and you've probably seen the headline that says they've been banned from British garages. They haven't. Nobody in this country can ban your car from your own garage. There's no agency here that issues a park outside order. What happens is quieter. A manufacturer writes to you, agrees the wording with the DVSA, and asks you to keep the car away from the house. That's it. Advice on a letter through your door. And that's worse, not better. Because advice has no deadline on it. So hold on to this one thing for the whole video, and it decides everything else. The repair is free. The waiting is what it costs you. Every car here has had a safety recall you don't pay a penny for. And on every one, owners have spent months driving something they can't properly use. A plug-in they've been told not to plug in. An electric car capped at 70%. A diesel sat at a dealer waiting on a part from Germany. 12 of them. And number one still hasn't got a permanent fix. I'm Terry, and this is British Vehicles. No manufacturer pays us a penny. No press cars, and we don't sell cars. Everything here comes from published data, and we'll tell you which is which. Do me a favor before we start. Hit subscribe. It's free and it costs you nothing. And this is the sort of thing that stops a mate signing for something daft on a Saturday morning. Right, where this comes from. UK recall notices on gov.uk, the DVSA recall database, and manufacturer statements carried by Autocar, What Car, Auto Express, Parkers and Fleet News. And here's what we haven't got. There's no British version of the American park outside order, so where the hardest wording only exists in a foreign notice, we'll say that out loud instead of dressing it up as British. We also can't tell you how many cars on these recalls are still sat unfixed. Nobody publishes that here. Where a number's from a UK notice, we'll say so. Where it's global, we'll say that too. Number 12. The Ford Kuga plug-in hybrid. This was the sensible money company car. Family SUV, low benefit in kind, 30-odd miles of electric for the school run. And the ordinary petrol Kuga isn't in any of this. Decent motor. This is the plug-in only. Here's the mechanism. The drive battery came off a supplier's line with contamination in the cells. A contaminated cell can short internally, and once it shorts, it makes heat faster than the pack can shift it. So the pack vents. Venting is the designed-in escape route for the gas, not a fault in itself, but it's the last thing standing between a cell and a fire. What you'd see is a stop safely now message and the drive going away. Steering and brakes stay with you, the rest doesn't. Ford halted sales in August 2020 and told owners not to charge and to leave the car in auto EV. About 1,800 UK cars and every pack got replaced. Ford also sent affected owners a £500 fuel card, which tells you exactly what a plug-in costs to run when you can't plug it in. Then it happened again. Recall 24 S79 on 2020 to 2024 cars with the 2.5 plug-in. Same instruction. Do not plug it in. That's the rule, first time out. The fix cost nothing. The 2 winters of petrol did. Number 11. The BMW and Mini plug-in hybrids. Same autumn, same story, different badge. Around 2,930 cars in the UK built between January and September 2020. The 3, 5 and 7 series plug-ins, the X1, X2, X3 and X5, the 225X e-Active Tourer, the Mini Countryman plug-in and the i8. Credit where it's due. BMW stopped delivering the affected new cars while it worked it out. That costs a manufacturer real money, and most don't do it. The mechanism is production, not design. Particles got into the cells during assembly, and a particle in the wrong place can bridge across inside a cell. It does it at full charge, when the cell is under the most stress and has the most energy to give up, which is why the instruction wasn't just park it somewhere sensible. It was don't charge it, don't use sport or manual, and leave the paddles alone. Anything that hammers the pack. So you had a Countryman plug-in doing the job of a heavier, thirstier petrol Countryman on a monthly payment set by a plug-in. The repair was free. The tank wasn't. That's the rule again. Number 10. The Hyundai Kona Electric and Ioniq Electric. The Kona Electric was one of the good ones. Real range, sensible size, no drama, and some of the early cars are still doing big miles. The cells came from LG. Inside a cell there's an anode tab, and on a small number of them that tab was folded. A folded tab collects lithium plating over time, the plating grows and eventually it reaches across to the cathode. That's an internal short, and it's worst at a high state of charge, which is why every instruction that followed was about charge level. The tell is that 15 of the reported fires happened to parked cars. 11 in Korea, 2 in Canada, 1 in Finland, 1 in Austria. In the UK, 1,672 cars went in for battery management software in October 2020. Then the letters in 2021 cap it at 90% and wait for a new pack. And it hasn't gone quiet. In 2026, Hyundai called in 104,011 Kona Electrics worldwide, built between January 2018 and July 2023 for another battery management update. 6 years of software. Chasing a folded tab. The repair is free. 6 years of 90% is the bill. Number 9. The Stellantis PureTech petrol cars on the fuel pipe recall. This is the 1.23 cylinder that's in half the small cars in this country. More than 70,000 UK cars across 28 model ranges went back in August 2025. And this isn't the wet belt. That's a separate argument for another video. This one's simpler and nastier. The mechanism is torque. There's a high-pressure pipe running from the fuel pump to the rail, and it's held by nuts and screws that are done up to a specific figure. On some cars, that torque went away in service. Once it does, you've got petrol at very high pressure with a path out, and it's leaking onto an engine that's hot enough to light it. The symptom is the oldest one in the book. You smell petrol when you shouldn't. On the drive, after a run, with the bonnet shut. If you smell fuel on a PureTech, that's not a Monday job. Free fix, and no way to know if the last owner ever took it in. That's the rule from the other end. Number 8. The Stellantis 1.2 mild hybrid. Different recall, same engine family, and this one is current. 44,000 UK cars built between 2023 and 2026, part of about 700,000 worldwide. Corsa, Mocha, Frontera 208, 2008, C3, C3 Aircross, C4, C4X, and DS3. Stellantis was clear. This isn't a stop drive. You can keep using the car, and it's a half-hour job at the dealer. The mechanism is a clearance. The pipe from the petrol particulate filter runs close to the pole protection cap on the 48-volt belt starter generator. On some cars, it was assembled too close. Get water in there, and water plus 48 volts plus 2 bits of metal nearly touching gives you an arc. An arc gives you heat in the engine bay next to everything else. Note what sets it off. Wet. In this country that isn't an edge case, that's Tuesday. Half an hour of labour, free, on a fault the weather triggers. And there'll be cars driving round for years that never went in, because the letter went to an address the owner left in 2024. Number 7. The Mercedes EQB. Be straight about this one. The numbers we can quote come from the American notice, and Mercedes sells the EQB here. So check your own registration rather than take our word for it. The EQB is the sensible one. 7 seats if you want them, square boot, no showing off. Early sales from the supplier weren't robust enough at a high state of charge. Under stress, and stress here means a hard charge or a knock underneath, a cell can short internally. There's no warning before it goes. Mercedes tried software first. Cap the charge, manage the pack, keep it off the top of its range. Then more fires happened in Europe, including on cars already done. So the answer changed. Full battery replacement, roughly 11,900 cars in the American campaign, with owners told to charge to 80% and keep it outdoors meanwhile. That's the pattern worth clocking, and you'll see it again. Software first, because software's quick and cheap. Hardware second, because it works. The software costs nothing. The year between the two is the cost. Right, quick favour before the top 4. If this is any use to you, give the like button a tap. Takes a second, costs you nothing, and it shoves this in front of somebody who's about to buy one of these without checking the reg. Cheers. Number 6. The BMW starter motor recall. 24,732 cars in the UK, another 197 in Ireland, built between July 2020 and July 2022. The 2, 3, 4 Series Grand Coupe, 5, 6 Series GT, 7, X3, X4, X5, X6 and Z4. That's most of the range. Here's where the British and American versions split, and it matters. In the States, owners were told to park outside. Here, BMW's instruction was, don't leave the car unattended with the engine running, and it put up an online checker. Same defect, different words. Nobody banned anything. The mechanism is in the magnetic switch that makes the electrical connection when you start. Metallic material builds up in the relay chamber through abrasion, and metal filings in a switching chamber give you a path where there shouldn't be one. That's local overheating, and in the worst case, a fire. The symptom BMW named itself is a smell of smoke while driving or after you've parked up and walked away. Free starter fitted at the dealer. But it's phased because there aren't enough starters, and phased means somebody's at the back of the queue. Number 5. The Jeep Wrangler and Grand Cherokee 4xe. Same honesty as the Mercedes. These sell in small numbers here, and the hard figures come from the American notice. The 4xe was a proper idea. A Wrangler that'll do the school run silently and still climb a green lane. The cells came from Samsung SDI, and the fault is separator damage. The separator is the thin layer keeping the two sides of a cell apart. Damage it and they find each other. That's a short, inside a pack, under the floor. Now the part that earns it a place this high. There were recalls in 2023 and 2024, both software. Watch the pack, spot the abnormality, warn the driver. Then 19 fires were reported, and 9 were in cars that had already had the software. So the third recall in late 2025 told owners not to charge at all and to park away from buildings, with the remedy still being written. By the end of that year, the 4xe had been pulled from sale. A plug-in you're told not to plug in isn't a hybrid. It's a heavy petrol SUV with a hybrid's payment. That's the rule at its most expensive. Number 4. The BMW diesels on the EGR cooler. The big one by volume, and hardly anyone talks about it now. 268,000 UK cars in 2018, another 27,000 in 2019, and the net widened again in 2020 to take in Mini, the 1 Series, the 2 Series, and the X1. The mechanism is worth understanding because it explains the delay. The EGR cooler drops the temperature of exhaust gas before it goes back into the engine, and it does that with coolant running through it. When that cooler cracks, glycol leaks into a passage that's already packed with soot and running very hot. Glycol plus soot plus heat gives you smouldering particles. Smouldering particles melt the plastic inlet manifold, and then you've got a fire in the engine bay from a part fitted to cut emissions. There's no symptom you'd notice on the drive. It goes from fine to serious with nothing in between. And this is where the rule bites hardest. Owners took cars in for something routine and were told to stop driving them on the spot. Cars sat at dealers for weeks waiting on parts from Germany. Free part. 5 weeks in a courtesy car you didn't choose. Number 3. The Vauxhall Zafira B. 234,938 cars, built between 2005 and 2014, and here's the detail. Nobody outside this country gets. It was a right-hand drive problem. Our cars, not a foreign story we imported. And this was the family car. 7 seats, cheap, everywhere. Grandparents ran them. That's who was in them. It starts with the heater blower resistor and its thermal fuse. That fuse exists to kill the circuit when it gets too hot. On a lot of these cars, it had been repaired improperly rather than replaced, which takes away the one thing meant to stop the fire. Add water getting in at the base of the windscreen, and you've got a hot resistor in the dash with no working fuse. The chronology is the story. First fire reported to Vauxhall in 2009. A full investigation started in 2015 after 161 reports. Then 4 recalls, around 220,000 cars that November, 234,938 the following May for a wax fuse resistor, 47,000 climate control cars in 2018, and in 2019 the same 234,938 back again. The DVSA and Luton Trading Standards opened a criminal investigation. Every one of those repairs was free. 10 years is what it cost. Number 2. The Volvo EX30. This is a live one, so check the date on this video. The EX30 is the small electric Volvo that made sense on price. The entry car, the single motor with the 49 kilowatt-hour lithium iron phosphate pack, isn't in this at all. If that's yours, you're fine. It's the single motor extended range and the twin motor performance on the 69 kilowatt-hour pack. UK recall reference ARM 2025-559, launched January 2026. 10,577 UK cars built between September 2023 and August 2025, about 40,000 worldwide. The mechanism is charge level again. Cells from that supplier can overheat after being charged to a high state, so the interim instruction is a 70% cap set in the car's own charging menu. Plus, don't leave it charging unattended indoors. If it goes wrong, the screen tells you to stop and get out. Volvo put the incident rate at around 0.02%. That's small, and it's fair to say so. But by late April 2026, fewer than 10 UK cars had actually had modules replaced, out of 10,500, with supply problems pushing the work later still. You bought a range. You've been driving 70% of it since Christmas, with no date on the calendar. The repair is free. The waiting is what it costs you. Right. Top 2. If you've stuck with me this far, do me a favor and subscribe before I get to number 1, because number 1 is the one nobody sees coming. Number 1. The Jaguar I-Pace. And it's here for one reason. It's the only car on this list where the waiting still hasn't ended. The I-Pace was a proper piece of work. It beat the Germans to a credible electric SUV, and it drove better than most of what followed. The cells are LG, and it's the same folded anode tab we covered on the Kona. Plating builds on the fold, reaches the cathode, shorts the cell. Cars up to the end of the 2021 model year are the ones affected, because the cell line was changed after that. There have been 4 recalls. The first in 2023 was software. Watch the pack, flag a bad module. Then more reports came in, including from outside the States. So in 2026, Jaguar authorized a new recall covering every car with a 2021 or earlier pack. Over 16,000 of them in the UK. The interim measures tell you where this stands. Cap at 90%. Park away from buildings. Charge outside only. And the final remedy is described as under development. Nearly 800 owners have pushed for either a permanent fix or a buyback. In America, Jaguar did buy back 2019 cars because no permanent fix had been developed. So that's the top of the list. Owners told where to park, how much to charge and to wait, with no date, for a repair that hasn't been designed yet. The repair is free. The waiting is what it costs you, and nobody's told these owners when it stops. Right. The 12 quickly. 12. Ford Kuga. Plug-in. A plug-in they told you not to plug in twice. 11. BMW and Mini plug-ins. Particles in the cells and don't touch the paddles. 10. Hyundai Kona electric. 6 years of software chasing a folded tab. 9. Stellantis PureTech fuel pipe. Torque goes, petrol finds a hot engine. 8. Stellantis 1.2 mild hybrid. 2 bits of metal too close, and rain does the rest. 7. Mercedes EQB. Software first, batteries second, a year in between. 6. BMW starter motor. Filings in the switching chamber and a queue for parts. 5. Jeep 4xe. 2 software fixes that didn't work, then don't charge it at all. 4. BMW EGR cooler, an emissions part that melts the manifold. 3. Vauxhall Zafira B. Our cars, our fires, 10 years to sort. 2. Volvo EX30, 10 cars fixed out of 10,500. 1. Jaguar I-Pace. Still no permanent fix. Here's the honest takeaway, and it's shorter than you'd think. A recall isn't bad news about a car. It's the system working, and it's free. What isn't free is the gap between the letter and the repair, and nobody measures that gap or publishes it here. So 3 things. First, put your registration into the recall checker on Gov UK. 30 seconds, every make. Second, if you're buying used, ask for proof the recall work was done and get it in writing, because outstanding safety work knocks money off and most sellers won't mention it. Third, if you're the one waiting, keep every letter. If a car can't do what it was sold to do for months on end, the paperwork is what makes that a conversation instead of a moan. And what I'd like from you in the comments is a number, not an opinion. What have you got? What was the recall? How long did you wait? And what did it cost you in fuel or in hire? That's the data nobody in this country publishes, and you lot have got it. If we've got anything wrong here, say so and be specific, and we'll put it right in the content. There's a card up on screen now with another one of these. Have a look, it's worth your time. Buy with your head, not the badge. This video is based on publicly available recall notices, MOT test data, safety ratings, reliability surveys, and independent review evidence current at time of publication. Individual vehicle outcomes vary. Some models may have had subsequent updates, recalls, or improvements. Always obtain current information and independent advice before making any purchase decision.